You're listening to Dr. Den Does on Black Fox Radio with your host, Dr. Den.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. You're listening to Dan the Rabbit Hole with me, Dr. Den, and with Scarlet Squire. At some point we should have Matt coming along to join us. But Matt, if you're listening, you're in bed, get out. Okay, Scarlett, do you want to introduce this one?
Yeah, it's great to be back, and it's good that we can do this from the comfort of our sofas now.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's a shame not being in the studio, but at least we can still present.
Absolutely.
I watched this really interesting series. I'm probably sure most people have seen it on Netflix. It's called Surviving Death. So there was, I think, 6 episodes, and each of them dealt with a different aspect of life after death, in a sense.
Yep.
Did you watch all of them, Dan?
I did. I watched them all, yeah. I found them all really interesting. The only one that bored me stupid, I think was the same one as you, was The Mediums.
Yeah. So maybe we'll run through. So the first one really, I was fascinated by that. That's what drew me in. So the first one was looking at near-death experiences.
That's right.
So people were explaining situations where they were clinically dead. So I think that means when your heart stops. Is that right?
Yeah, it's when your heart stops. It's when your brain dead that they sort of finally pull the plug. But,
but they had some amazing stories or experiences of meeting, going into the light, as they say, being in a really nice, calming light / energy.
Yeah, that was the weird thing about it, was they all felt quite happy as to where they were.
Well, I've sort of looked into that bit, and I found, I knew about it anyway, but there's this sort of drug that's released in your brain. It's not a drug, it's a chemical compound.
Right.
It's released in your brain when you die and when you're born, and it's called DMT.
Right.
And DMT is found, the components that make up DMT is found in every single living organism. So it's naturally in plants, animals, and humans.
Right.
So some people call it the spirit molecule because it's found naturally in all living things.
Right.
So humans have been able to sort of recreate DMT, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's taken as a recreational drug, but you can, take it.
Yeah, is it anything like LSD?
It's LSD on LSD.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit weird, that one. I did read something about this DMT.
Yeah, so it's like a total disassociate. So it's not, if you did it, you wouldn't be able to stand up and walk around.
That's right.
It's totally encapsulating trip in your head. But the funny thing about it is most people that have taken it, and there were clinical trials done on a range of people, including doctors and, professional people. And they all said they experienced the same thing. They've left their body, and then they were sort of travelling through space and time, which was a series of geometric shapes that are just unexplainable, really.
Right.
And then they all encountered a being or some beings.
That's right, I did read about this, yeah.
Which I find really weird, because they all meet some sort of being. So it's a really interesting drug, and it's more interesting that it's released naturally when you're born and when you die.
Yeah, wasn't this done by the army first?
Probably. I wouldn't put it past them.
I seem to remember them trying this out on soldiers to see what effect it would have on them, and they found it had the complete opposite effect to what they were looking for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they were hoping it was going to sort of make them, controllable. So they could sort of just say to them, right, you need to go up to that bloke who's shooting at you and just keep going until you die.
Wow.
But it wasn't like that. What happened was they all just sort of tripped out and saw things. But the guys who gave them the drugs had no control over what they were seeing or what they were doing.
No, I think that's why I say this isn't like a recreational drug. It's more sort of like ayahuasca, that drug that you can do in the Amazon.
Hello.
Which is...
Yeah. Oh,
Hello, Matthew.
Yeah, Matt.
Hey, there we go. Hello.
Hello.
Cool.
We thought you were still snoozing.
No, I was here. My PC was just being annoying. It wanted to update when I turned it on. So I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, well, it's nice for you to join us.
Yeah, I said I'd be here.
Yeah,
Haven't
brilliant.
missed much, have I?
No, we're just talking about the first episode of Surviving Death.
Ah.
Did you watch that on Netflix?
I don't have Netflix, so I couldn't watch it.
Oh, who's gone?
So what you're going to have to do, Matt, is just come back with what you know about whatever we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah,
we're
that's
talking
fine.
about near-death experiences
Yeah.
and the drug that was used. Scarlett was just explaining, called DMT.
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. But I've Scarlett, going back to this DMT thing. Have you heard of
Yeah.
Montauk?
No, haven't.
That's a place in the States where they took people for scientific experiments, and it's still off. You still can't get into it.
Oh, is it in a cave?
No, it's not in a cave, but it's on like an island thing, and it's called Montauk. They found a badger there on the beach, and they called it the Montauk Monster. It's quite famous.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
But basically, Montauk was this experimental place where they did mind-bending stuff on soldiers and all the rest of it. And I think DMT was the one that they used there.
Oh, I see.
So I think that's
But-
why I heard about it.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and it's one of those drugs. As I say, it's not a recreational thing because it's very much mind blowing.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's a sort of awakening experience because they meet an entity, they learn how the world works, why we're here, like all these crazy purposes. There's a really good interview with Joe Rogan who talks about his experience. He tried it,
He
and
did, didn't he? That's right.
also Mike Tyson. That's a really funny podcast if you ever watch it. Mike Tyson's
think-
just a...
Yeah, I think I've actually seen that.
Yeah, and he's just like, I'll never do any other drug again.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, well, my personal theory is that the brain releases it when you die,
Yeah.
so you're not scared.
Right. Well, that
So
would explain
it's-
a lot.
Yeah, so when they say you're looking into the light, I think you have a choice then and there. If you step into the light, you get shown this, magical world of your own mind's creation, and then you can choose to stay there or come back. That's just my theory of what these near-death experiences are.
Okay, that's
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
I've-
Because... Sorry, Matt, you was going to say
Oh,
something?
no. I was going to say something. I know someone who did have a near-death experience on Source,
Whoa!
which was my mum, because Den knows this, fortunately. She's fine, don't worry, she's just here. But she was in hospital with COVID over Christmas. And on the second night when she was in, when she, wasn't the greatest, she told me it's clear as day. She saw my grandma and her brother, who had both passed away, in front of her for about 3 odd so minutes, just there, like motionless, and then they just went.
Did they speak to her?
No, I told her that. And she said, no, they said they just stood there, like in the
See,
corner.
that is so weird because another part of this series is a man who works in a hospice, so people who are dying.
Yeah.
And he's sort of written a book because he kept speaking with them, and a lot of them were saying that they saw relatives
That was Signs from the Dead, wasn't it?
that had passed away, yeah, and they weren't scared of anything at all, but they saw, relatives at the end of their bed. It's sort of like they're coming to collect them or, in a sense, reassure them that it's fine to pass over.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it?
I thought that was really cool, and how the guy's making a book about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really good. But I think I've talked to you guys before about when my mum was ill back, over 40 years ago now, and she died for a while, and she done the old going up to the corner of the room, looking down, watching people trying to resuscitate her stuff. Which was-
Whoa.
yeah, she.
Yeah, or body thing.
Yeah, astral travel they used to
Yeah.
call it, but I don't know what they call it now. But yeah, it was that, a body experience. And she said it was really weird because she was right in the corner of the room at the top, just looking down on all these nurses, doctors, trying to resuscitate her.
Oh my gosh.
which
See,
must
that
be
I can't
really
explain.
Yeah, I don't.
That is-
That's. It's not like your brain goes funny and you go to a white light and you see people. You can understand that, but actually leaving your body and watching yourself being worked on, that is bizarre. That is
Definitely.
bizarre.
I mean, it could be like the DMT effect, like it's kind of like a dream, but that is just so weird because you would have been put under anaesthetic
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't know what you would look like being
No.
resuscitated.
No. That's
Wow,
the weird
so-
thing.
So she obviously survived that
Yeah.
to be able to tell you the story. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, when did she tell me that? God, must have been. It was only a little while ago. It's about 5 or 6 years ago. She told us it. 'Cause I
And was she different after that experience? Did she see death in a different way, or?
No, she said it didn't really affect her. They talked to her a lot in the hospital about it because she was explaining what was going on. And they saying, "Well, you can't know that. You just can't
Wow.
know
They were
that."
spooked.
But she said, it never affected her. She didn't talk about it. That was the thing. She just let it slip one day in a conversation, and it was like, whoa, where did that come from?
Wow, yeah, that's a bit of,
It was
bomb.
a bit weird, but yeah. So
wow, I'm really surprised and happy that I've met people that have both your mums
yeah,
have had near-death experiences.
yeah.
A friend of mine was watching at the same time and texted me, said, "Is it weird that I really want to kind of trial this?"
I don't know, is it weird?
And I said, "No, but it's a bit risky."
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was that film? There was a film with they were dead for a little while and then they brought them back.
Ah, was it AO? That series?
No, it was a film with Kiefer Sutherland in it. Yeah, but that was the same thing. They were medical students and they were sort of almost like they were killing each other. And then when the brain activity stopped on the monitors, they shocked them back into life. And then they were explaining all these experiences that they were having.
Wow.
So, I can't remember the name of the film. If I can remember it, I'll email it to you. But yeah, it was that was an interesting film.
Yeah, well, I've never really been scared of death, but it did make me kind of like not scared
Yeah,
because everyone that reported were close to it or did actually clinically die. Actually, it was very warm presence and not scary at all.
yeah, it's very scary. And then, of course, during that program, the near-death experience, they talked about time distortion because they had no idea of time, and it seemed to take they could be away for hours, but when they come back, it was only like a minute.
Yeah.
That sort of makes sense because if you think about it, we invented time. Time, if you really think of it, time's like hours, minutes. We made them up to just keep
yeah.
track of things we're doing.
It's
So
a
it sort of
construct
makes
by
sense, I
human
guess.
beings.
Yeah, it's like breaking down that construct when they're in that sort of state.
That's really deep, actually. Because actually, there is no time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Well,
is
obvious-
something
well-
we made up.
Yeah, well, obviously something's moving forward. You can't go back, so we're always going forward. But hours, minutes, seconds, we made them up just to keep track of everything.
Yeah.
I wonder what it must be like to be in a coma then, and then say you were in a coma for 3 years.
Yeah, that must be really weird because you wake up thinking you've only just gone to sleep.
Yeah, but I think that's scary though, because they say that you can still hear in a coma.
Yes, that's right.
And so surely it must be terrifying, because if you can hear in a coma, you'll have some sense of time passing by, and that must be horrid.
But do you? Do you?
I
do you
don't
have
know.
a sense of time in a coma, or is it
Because
just
it's
you hear
like,
things?
yeah, are you dreaming or is your brain just totally...
Exactly.
I think you are dreaming.
Mm.
Because they say dogs don't have sense of time,
But it's proven that
but I think they
they
do.
dream.
I don't know. You get a dog and he's like 11 o'clock every morning. He comes up to you and nudges you for he wants his dinner.
Yeah, my dog definitely knows when it's dinner time, and also
Exactly.
he knows when my granddad will be coming home, what time, because he'll wait by the door.
Yeah, exactly. So they must have some sense of time.
Oh yeah, some. Yeah.
But the other thing is that from that show that I got from it was that, not only these time distortions and going into the tunnel, that white light thing,
Yeah.
was that it changed nearly everybody that experienced it.
For better or worse.
Well, most of them sort of became more relaxed, more accepting of everything. They just accepted everything as it was, and they weren't scared of death. That was the other thing.
Yeah, well, I think going back to the DMT, it's released. Well, they say, there's no way to actually prove that it's released when you're born, and I think that is to to kickstart, you, and also to block the trauma of actually being born, because it's not like. I mean, that could traumatise you. If that's your first experience.
Oh yeah.
In life, that could traumatise you. So I think the DMT is released to distract you.
Yeah, but there are people who actually can remember actually being born.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Being in the womb and not, making the exit is sort of like, what?
Scary in a way.
Wow, we need to find one of those people and get them on the show.
Yeah, they are about, because I was reading about it some time ago.
Yeah.
About people's memories and people remember things. The other thing was, slightly off topic, but there was a guy they were speaking to, and he could remember conversations between his mum and dad before he was even born.
Oh, wow.
Wow. What, and the parents confirmed it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so weird.
Which is really strange. But anyway, we're going off topic.
Yeah, well.
So, that was the first one, which was the near-death experiences, which I think, to be honest, you could talk for hours on.
I loved it, yeah. I thought it was great. It was just so nice to hear other people's stories.
It was really
I even went on YouTube to find more after
you?
that. Yeah.
Okay. And the next one was the medium. Yeah.
It's all I can say is,
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. Back in the 70s and 80s, there used to be a very famous woman called Doris Stokes.
Okay.
And she was a medium, and she sold millions of books. She'd done all these shows where she would go theatres and that and call people out from the audience and all the rest of it. Anyway, she was like on the top of her tree for 20 odd years.
Yeah.
As a medium. And then when she died, somebody was talking to her husband. He said, no, it was all a con.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she sold millions of books. She'd done thousands of these shows. But all these people that she was talking to, they just believed everything she said. And the more she did it, and the more famous she became.
Were they plants? Were they, what do you call them? Like people that were planted in the audience?
Well, basically what happened was they would have people in the crowd, when they went into the theatre, they would have people standing behind people in the queues.
Right.
And listen to what they said and tape record it.
I see. That's like so crafty.
I know. So when she got on stage, she would have an earpiece in and they would play a particular piece to her, and then she would do the old, I'm getting a message from Roger. Roger, somebody called Gene. Is there a Gene who's associated with Roger? And they'd all go, somebody would obviously go, oh, yeah, it's me. And she'd go, he bought you a necklace that you've never told anybody about, apart from a close friend. And, it'd all be like, oh, they'd believe everything she said, but it was all a con.
Oh, see, for me, I've never warmed to the idea. I just don't.
Yeah.
Have either of you ever been to see a medium?
I did once. Waste of time.
Yeah, it's just something about.
The problem is, when you're questioned by a medium, if you listen to what they're saying, they're actually asking you questions.
Yeah, and they say that you give away more than what they actually guess.
Absolutely. So they can tell you your whole life story in 5 minutes. And if you listen to people like Derren Brown, even magicians like Paul Daniels, he would do it. They could tell you your life story in 5 minutes just by chatting to you.
Well, Derren Brown explains how he does it. That's why he's so great, because he's like, don't be fooled.
Absolutely.
By these people. And I do respect him for that, actually.
Yeah.
But I've never. Some people love it. I know a friend of mine, like her and her family, are really, really into it. And the man on the program, he was so adamant that he saw a series of mediums. That was his thing, because he felt his dad was communicating with him. Because they had some sort of deal that my dad's not just going to leave this earth. He will get signs, and with every medium, he'll think of a question that only they could answer if they were actually communicating with his dad. So he saw that one, and he wasn't convinced by her.
No.
Because when they left, they said, yeah, all that stuff was true, but all that stuff is also on Facebook.
Yeah. No, it's rubbish. The problem for me with all this is that people are so sucked into it that they start to believe things, and it's like these people who say like, oh, you're gonna, in the next 5 years, you're gonna be doing so and so, and I know that, and they think, oh, how do you know that? And they say, well, your, what I call them, spirit guide has told me that you're going to be you're going to be you're going to win the lottery, you're going to be a millionaire, you're going to marry Cliff Richard, all this sort of weird stuff. But the thing is, they believe it and they hang on to it. But it's very, very susceptible people that actually believe in all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's people that are grieving, which is what makes me not warm to it or feel very excited about it, because it's people that are grieving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And want to communicate with their loved ones, which I find really sad if it is a con.
Yeah.
That's disgusting. It's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, my dad believed in mediums and he went to see them on a regular basis. And he always said to me, like, when I die, I'm going to let you know if there's anything out there, because he really believed that it was life after death, but we'll talk about it in a minute. But I never got anything, never heard anything. My mum died on New Year's Day this year.
Oh, sorry to hear that. This year, that's...
Yeah, it's a funeral tomorrow, funny enough.
Oh.
So, yeah, but anyway, she didn't believe in any of that.
Not even after her experience?
No, it was just really weird. But, I don't know, my dad was a firm believer. I mean, he would go to these people all the time and sort of... He never really talked about what they talked about. Like I said, I went once, and after 10 minutes, they said, I can't read you, I can't connect to anybody that's connected to you. And it was because I wasn't telling them anything.
Yeah.
It was name, rank, serial number, that was it. That's all I gave them.
I would like to trial it, just to see.
I'll tell you what would be interesting. I don't know if you guys are up for this, but maybe we could contact a medium and get them to come in when we're back at the college. Get them to come in and do a live show.
That'd be interesting.
Could also be really awkward.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I'm like you, I don't want to give too much away, and I'm just gonna, see what they come up with.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting. Just don't tell them who's dead in your family and that sort of thing. Just don't tell them anything.
I might even give them a fake name.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if they look at me and they're going to say, this guy's in his 60s, so the chances are both his parents are dead.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing they're going to make of it, yeah? So, yeah, I mean, it's mediums, don't believe a lot of them. I've actually written down BS here.
Yeah, and I just think, like, why would your loved one go through some crackpot?
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than you? Why wouldn't they just come directly to you?
Yeah, I think that's where the Signs from the Dead come in, doesn't it? The third episode of this programme was the Signs from the Dead. Now, that I did find really, really interesting.
I've seen bits about this. Obviously, using it and seen the show. Do you know what we're on about? It's like, it's relatively soon after they pass away. They try and sort of contact, isn't it?
But the signs, what did you think of the Signs from the Dead, Scarlett?
I thought some of them were... I think if that brings you comfort, then that brings you comfort. I think it's quite sweet.
Right.
I thought the one with the bird was fascinating.
Yes, and the butterflies.
These two sisters lost their mother, and their mother was they used to do bird watching with their mum. Mm-hmm. And they said that when mum was terminally ill, come back as a sign, give us a sign. And they said a specific bird. And one day they were watching telly, and this bird just banged against the window, and they went outside. And it was a what, sorry?
It was a cardinal. The bird.
A cardinal, which isn't native to that area where they lived.
Oh.
And it was like, they could hold it, it was sitting on their shoulder. Like when they tried to let it fly away, it wouldn't leave. It was just like jumping on their shoulder and stuff. It was really sweet.
Yeah, for a wild bird, that's unusual.
Yeah.
That's so odd.
And they were going, it's mum, it's, she's giving us a sign. And they were really happy about it. And that one I found very strange because they had asked her, send a cardinal, and they did.
Yeah. The other one was butterflies, wasn't it?
Yeah, but butterflies.
There was somebody said about a particular butterfly, which again wasn't native to the area, and it floated into their living room and kept appearing, which I thought was weird.
Yeah, but I think the moral of that was just like sometimes you can look too hard for a sign that you miss
Yeah,
signs that are given to you. Like I said to my mum, you know, the same as you said to your dad then, I said to her, you know, if you come back, please give me a sign. Not anything spooky. Don't appear at the end of my bed or
yeah,
tip over furniture or something. Do something like, I don't know.
yeah. I never got anything. I don't. To be honest, and a lot of people you speak to about this sort of thing, they say, because you're not receptive. You're really not receptive.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Matt, I think you're going to get everybody's, but you know, you're like a bloody magnet for everything.
Yeah.
We'll have to cut that bit out. Yeah, but it's sort of like, I don't know. I'm just not. I don't see things. I don't hear things.
Maybe you haven't been so open to it that
I don't
you've
believe in
missed.
ghosts either. So that's probably half of it. You know,
Could
show me a
be.
photograph of a ghost and I'll tell you how they did it, you know? It's just, I don't know. But this signs thing, where they had birds, butterflies, lots of animals. There was lots of animals that they connected with, wasn't there?
Yeah, which was really cool.
Yeah. And
But then I get like, you know, they say, oh, you know, animal, because I've got like a sort of a weird thing that I do, and it's I've got like a spirit. It's not a spirit. It's like an object.
right.
And whenever I'm feeling a bit down or a bit off frequency, I see this object, and it's a feather.
Right.
And then it's sort of as a reminder for me to be on the frequency, and that like I am in synchronicity with the world,
Really?
if that makes sense. Yeah, it's just my weird thing. It's like a white feather will just sort of like come out of nowhere or just be in my room, and then you're like, okay, yeah, that's my reminder. I'm on the right track. I'm in line with the universe and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like these little fluffy white feathers you get from birds under their wings and on their bodies, and they float down.
I
Yeah,
have them in my room sometimes.
Yeah, and people say, oh, it's an angel leaving you, leaving you one of their feathers from their wings.
yeah. So that to me is like a sort of reminder that
But if
that
you-
I'm on the right frequency. But then they're really common.
yeah,
It's really common to see that. So
yeah.
You
But if
just
you read
rem-
the Bible as to what an angel really looked like, they were scary as hell and nothing like the ones you
Oh,
see in
yeah.
paintings, you know. They were like really scary.
yeah, it's like
Just
4
reminded me of
heads
something
and 4
that-
wings.
That's right, really strange. The other thing was that, I mean, I talked to you before about the red monkey, didn't I?
No,
Not
what?
familiar with that.
No.
Remember I
No.
told you about the trip I pulled with the
when
red,
you placed them,
the red
yeah.
monkey? Yeah. I put a little picture of a red monkey everywhere.
What were you going to say, Matt? Have you got any like signs that you've seen?
I was gonna. Well, I don't know what it is. Like, okay, so it was a few years ago. It was the same year that my uncle passed. It wasn't like right after, long later, but the only thing I can probably think it around that time. When how old was I? I was still at school, so it must have been like 2016, 2015 odd time. No, it was 2016 because when I was doing my GCSEs. And I would find acorns in my room. Like, they're just full from the
That's weird.
ceiling. Like,
That's weird.
there's 3 altogether, right? And at one time I heard a drop and it was just an acorn on the floor. And I just never worked that out really. I'm not saying it's paranormal, don't know what it was, but there's acorns on my floor.
That's
And I
weird.
found about 3 of them altogether. And this is
Maybe you had a
before we-
squirrel living in your attic.
Either, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, but I was thinking, maybe they came from the attic, but there's no holes in my ceiling. And I'm like, oh, okay.
But you can't think of any sort of connection to acorns. They don't. There's no relevance to you.
Yeah, there's no... Right, the only thing I can think of an acorn is when I was at his house when I was a kid. Well, when I say a kid, I was like probably 11. And I was getting acorns off the tree and I got stung by a bee. Because it was on the acorn and it fell down my back. But that's like the most, obscure thing. Like how many times in your life have you walked past someone with acorns and,
Yeah,
It's,
it was
but yeah, I just never explained how the acorns got, in my room.
How did you just not even? Yeah, I would have gone straight.
Yeah.
That's really strange.
It was
Yeah.
strange.
No, I've
'Cause
definitely I've had no signs of nothing weird like that.
Well, the other sign that they say is quite common is like a coin. So you see a coin with the date
right, yeah.
of birth of the loved one. But I mean, how likely is it that you're going to find that? I think, in my opinion, it's very likely.
Oh yeah, there's tons of coins in circulation.
Mm.
Yeah, depends how old they are.
Well, I think I'd need something a bit more.
Yeah, I would.
It would have to be a bit more special than that.
I found it all a bit weird. But the other thing was that people were talking about lights flashing on and off, and they took it as a sign from a deceased family member. I mean, that to me is a electricity problem.
Yeah, but that guy, like they were crazy. The lights going in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and the guy, he said, I bought an electrician the next day, and he checked all of them, and he said there's nothing wrong with them. They're absolutely fine.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
That's
Nah.
odd.
Yeah, and the video was insane.
It was really, wasn't it? It was like a disco.
Yeah, it was like a disco, and that person had lost his daughter recently.
That's right.
They do say that like spirits or whatever interfere with like electronics and whatnot, don't they?
Yeah, it's the same for aliens and stuff. They always say that they can interfere with electronics.
Yeah, they interfere with everything.
What was I watching the other day? Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Ah, right.
Brilliant film.
Did you watch the
think I've seen
editor's
that.
cut or the original?
Well, it's about 3 hours long, so
Yeah, that's probably the editor's cut. That's the best one. Because they
Yeah.
left a lot of stuff in that they cut out originally. You know what that's based on, don't you?
no.
That's based on true story.
Is it?
Yeah. And all the stories that are in there, all the things, all the craft and everything are based on witnesses' descriptions. So everything in that film is based around fact.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently Spielberg researched it for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that he got everything, pretty much spot on. But
What? So that it is actually in that rock.
yeah,
There is-
somebody witnessed something, and they were drawn to the Devil's Tower or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said he saw craft and all that buzzing around there. I don't think there was anything where they sat down with an organ and played music to him. I think that bit was just added for effect.
Right. Yeah.
But he did actually. He said at one point when he was on this Devil's Tower, he said he was abducted and brought back, which is where they got the scene down at the bottom of the mountain where Richard Dreyfuss goes into the spaceship on an exchange. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah.
So that was the part he was playing, but in actual fact he was dropped back. He never went and didn't return. But yeah, that was quite interesting. Reading is a book called it's not called The Making of. I can't remember. It's something to do with the making of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's actually a book talking about all the things that he included and the actual cases. It lists all the cases. You can download it off the internet. I can't remember what it's
Oh,
called.
that's cool. That might have to be my lockdown reading.
Yeah, it really is, because he said if you get the list of all these things, you can tie them into the film, which is really
I
cool.
see.
So yeah. Anyway, signs from the dead. Yeah, I haven't had any.
No, I'm open to them. But then I also think as well, like when you die, I think that you get to go to different dimensions, potentially even different planets. So why would you want to stick around on
Interesting
Earth and
thing,
give
yeah.
people
Very true.
signs
Very true.
when there's so much to see and do?
Yeah. But that takes us on to the next one, which was, I found this one the best one. This is the one that really sort of had me sort of eager to get out there, was I See Dead People.
You're listening to Dr. Den Does on Black Fox Radio with your host, Dr. Den.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember that one?
about spirits.
Yeah, it was about people having visions, having dreams, and EVPs and spirit photography and all that sort of stuff.
Yes, I do remember that one. Sorry, I'd
Yeah.
forgotten about that one.
Yeah, that was the best one, I think.
That was so weird.
Yeah, it was
Because
weird.
I'd never heard of the man. There was this man who lived on this boat which was haunted, and he had this Polaroid. and a friend of him and a friend started taking some pictures of each other, and in each of the pictures there was this white mist type thing, and then they started taking more and more pictures, and the white mist actually started to spell out things. So they'd ask a question, and then they took a picture, and like the mist said yes.
It was really good.
I'll have to find the video to show Matt.
Yeah, definitely.
You'd love it. It's so weird.
There was the other guys, which I don't think was in this program. I was quite surprised, were the guys that had the Polaroid camera,
Yeah.
and they just took a picture of anything, and it would have words written on it.
Really? So it wasn't just that camera?
No, because they changed the camera. Got a different camera, different film, put it in, and it would have they would ask questions and they would get answers back.
Wow.
And it wouldn't be them asking
Really
the questions,
weird.
they would get other people to ask the questions. It was just like, that was bizarre. Now, there is a way to do that. Admittedly.
How?
There's a girl who was on one of these talent contests called the Sacred Rihanna.
Yeah.
She's like she dresses like that.
Oh, yeah. It's from the
that
girl from
woman
the ring.
from the Ring.
Yeah, I know who
She's
you're on about. Yeah.
Japanese.
All right.
She's got long black hair and she looks as spooky as hell. She scares the life out of them every time she comes
Oh,
on.
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
great.
But she did a similar trick. But what she did was she actually took a photograph of one of the guests there, and she asked them to pick a photograph of one of these 10 dead people. So this woman, I can't remember where she picked this picture, and then she lifted up the camera and took a picture of this guest, one of the judges, and she gave her the Polaroid, put it in her hand, waited for it to develop, and then said turn it over, and she turned it over, and standing behind her was the dead person,
Oh my gosh.
which is really. But then they showed us how she did it. So there are always ways of doing stuff. So that sort of thing, yeah, it's spooky as hell. People sort of go, "Ooh," but I'm still not sure.
Well, the thing I found fascinating was that when they tried it with other Polaroid cameras with using a different film, it didn't work.
No,
It only seemed to be this specific film that they stopped producing in like the 80s.
yeah, that was a Polaroid film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I think it was a trick, but then you can never really tell with people, can you? I mean,
never
they
be
might
sure.
well have believed it, but I don't know. But yeah, I just, God, I see dead people. I don't know. End of life experiences. That's the other one.
That was interesting. That kind of made me more believe it
End
could
of life.
potentially be true.
Do you want to explain what happened so Matt understands?
Yeah, so a lot of people who were dying said that they visited or saw aspiration. Am I saying it right? Aspirations, not aspirations.
Apparitions.
Apparitions, duh. Yeah, they saw apparitions of like their family or friends that had died. And so this man, he was a hospice worker, so he went and sat with people in their last moments of their life, and he's kept hearing these same, what do you call it, stories. So he started to write a book and make note of them all, and he's got over like 500 people saying that they saw relatives and stuff.
That's right. It's really creepy.
And like he even tells family members like, oh, don't be concerned if the person who's dying starts talking to the wall or something in the sky, because they can probably see something that you can't.
Yeah, I get what you mean now. Yeah.
But it's nice. It's like the sort of your dead relatives are there to welcome you into the afterlife and reassure you that it's okay. And that brought great comfort to not only the people that were dying, but also the family as well around them.
Yeah, I think a lot
That
of
was
them,
really.
Sorry, yeah, I think a lot of them it did, like you say, they felt a lot of comfort from those things, these visions they were having and stuff. So, but then again, that's the life after death thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It all comes under the same heading.
What do you believe happens when you die?
With me,
Yeah.
I think everything I think the white tunnel thing the white bright lights has been
Yeah.
proven as a drug in the body that makes you see that.
Oh, right.
Which is where these sort of people say, I'm going down a white tunnel and I'm seeing people at the end of it. Well, the white tunnel apparently is not, it's just a bright light. You've heard the bright light thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently
Especially if you're on an operating table.
yeah, that's the brain shutting down. That's the brain sort of like almost blowing a fuse. So that's the end of it, apparently. But I think I've told you I had a similar experience when I was in hospital.
Really?
Yeah, it was really spooky. I had septicemia,
Oh my gosh.
and it got really, really bad, and I was taken to hospital, and I was in this room, and I can remember just like sort of fainting almost, sort of like fainting, and then just everything starting to get a white light. See a white light, it got brighter and brighter and brighter, and then there was a doctor and a nurse standing over me when I woke up, so I'm not sure what happened. I said to them what happened, and they just said, no, it's alright, you went out for a bit. But they wouldn't explain what the went out was. It was only a couple of years later I found out that they actually couldn't find a pulse. I was dead, apparently.
Oh.
But
Oh
it
my
wasn't,
gosh.
But it wasn't for a long time. It was only for a few seconds. But it was enough for the machine to go off, apparently. But yeah, I mean, it was just a white light. That's all I could say. So these white light things, apparently, well, in my thing is that you get a white light, the light goes out, and that is it.
Wow.
That's my opinion.
What about you, Matt? What do you think?
What happens when you die?
Yeah.
Or after when you die? I don't know. Like, I reckon there's something, because, yeah, you know, like, I reckon that when you die, it ties in with sort of a dream state.
Yeah.
Because obviously, when you go to sleep, if you think about it, you're paralyzed, blinded, and pretty much shut off. You're kind of on like a sleep mode, but well, literally. And you have all these like, you know, visions and whatnot. So I reckon it's something like that when you die. Like, yeah.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. What
like
about you, Scarlett? Do you believe in that?
Yeah, I think that your body dies, but I think your soul just goes back into the universe, so you can go and experience. So you just get reincarnated in a sort of other dimension or even another planet.
There's the word, reincarnation.
Yeah.
That was the last program, wasn't it? The last part of it. So that
It was so nice to actually see the guy, Jim Beam, I think. No, not Jim Beam, that's a whiskey. What was his name?
yeah, I'd like to see lots of Jim Beam when I go.
Jim Stevenson. So the one I found most fascinating was the first one, the first episode about near-death experiences, and this last one about reincarnation.
Yeah, the reincarnation was really fascinating.
Because I've got a book by that professor that was on it,
Right.
about children who remember their past lives.
Yeah.
I've seen stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got his book. So his work is based on, I think he's called Jim Stevenson.
But the weird thing about it was all these cases of kids saying they were somebody else. And it was all being clarified by their parents, you know, and researchers. The famous one was that young kid, wasn't he, the young boy that said he was a woman before, died in a fire. Do you remember that one, Scarlett?
Yeah, that's in the book, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite weird, that one.
Yeah, because so like the overall, so this guy Jim, I need to find his name. I think he's called Jim. Let me just write children who remembered past lives. But basically, it's from the ages of like 1 until 6. Children talk about these experiences and memories that they would just not know otherwise. This boy talked. This little boy, who was about 3, kept waking up in the middle of the night screaming his head off. And crying and being absolutely terrified. And he said, I crashed into some water. And as he got older and he could articulate his thoughts more, he was saying how he used to be a pilot and he crashed he was shot down, he was crashed into the ocean.
That's right, it was Professor Jim Tucker.
That's it, Professor Jim Tucker. So his work's based. He carried on the work from another professor, but
Yeah, that World War II pilot, the American kid,
yeah,
said who crashed the plane and he was alive, and lived through his death several times. That was really spooky.
and he knew like loads about planes that he'd never been taught. He knew so much about these old World War II planes that he'd never, this extensive knowledge that a 3-year-old wouldn't have
That's right.
or hadn't been taught.
Yeah, he described the cockpit, everything. Absolutely.
And where he was shot down, he could describe like the boat that he came from, and it was all bang on because his dad went and researched it, and it was all accurate.
Yeah, but the waking up screaming was when he was literally in the cockpit under the water, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Trying to
there's
get
another
Wow.
really famous case about a boy from Barra, who this boy who lived in Scotland kept going on about his Barra family, which is this tiny island somewhere near Scotland that his family had never heard of before, never mentioned, never seen on telly, never read it in a book. And this boy was going on and on about Barra
Right.
and missing his Barra family. And he said, like, I lived in this house, it was on the beach, and planes used to land on the beach, and me and my brother and my dad used to go and play there, and my dad was called something or other. So they took him there, and lo and behold, the plane did land on the beach. There was a like black and white house with a black and white dog. That was where he said it was. It's just crazy.
Nuts, isn't
Oh,
it?
wow.
How did he? Yeah, so from the research that this Jim Tucker guy did, and that from the book, the conclusion is that a lot of people who are reincarnated, supposedly, had quite tragic deaths.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense that they're given a second chance.
Second chance.
A lot of the stories as well in the book by Jim Tucker says, like, children saying, telling their parents, I chose you. I chose to be in this family. I miss my old family, but I chose to be in this family.
Yeah, it's really weird, isn't it?
It's odd.
Yeah.
There's an author called James Herbert. He wrote a very famous book called The Rats, which was a horror story. They made it into a film. It was a big flop. But he did a book called Fluke, which was about somebody being reincarnated as a dog
Right.
Oh.
and him trying to find his wife.
I think I've read this.
It's like, it is such a good book, but apparently he did tons and tons of research on reincarnation to give the book a lot of authenticity and
Yeah.
make it almost real. But it's just a story. But when I read it, it was like it was believable. Apart from me, obviously can't be, because if you come back as a dog, nobody's going to know.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's really, really interesting. This whole reincarnation thing. Buddhists believe
Oh,
that
yeah.
they're going to be reincarnated all the time, don't they?
Yeah. And I
yeah.
kind of agree with it. Like, I think you're reincarnated until you sort of, what Buddhists call reach enlightenment, which is where you've just,
Where you achieve what you've been set out to achieve.
Yeah.
which whatever humans are supposed to achieve, which I think is to love and be a good person.
Yeah.
That's my lot. I'm going to have to come back to something else. And
Yeah, but I think I don't think you necessarily just reincarnate on this planet. I think you can reincarnate on other planet. And I think if you're really evil, you could reincarnate as something like a slug or a cockroach or.
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, because I've had fear, like Buddhists or whatnot, is the better you, have been, the better reincarnation, if you believe in it, you'll get. But if you're, a really cruel, horrible person, the worse it will be. Like, you could come back as, I don't know, a clam or something,
oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm coming.
Yeah, or like a sea urchin on a ship.
Yeah,
And then you have
I think
to-
that's what I'm going to come back as then.
Oh, Den.
Nah,
But
Maybe you are miserable in this life because you lived a good life before, and this is your testing. This is another test for you in this life.
Yeah.
So it's like unlocking another level. So you've had to deal with illness and all sorts in this life. So maybe this life is just a test. So
Actually, I was talking about this the other day to somebody, and when I sat down and thought about what's happened in my life, I thought to myself, oh my God, if you were to put this in a book, nobody would believe it.
Yeah.
It was like really, really depressing.
So well, maybe
I
this
don't
is the testing bit, and your next reincarnation will be good because you survived, you lived through this bit.
Yeah, maybe in the next life I'll win the lottery every week and
That'd be
you know.
good.
Yeah. See, I like to think I've lived I think I've had my testing lives
Yeah.
already because this life is pretty good.
Isn't that what the Buddhists believe?
Sorry, what that you? It's sort of like levels. That's what I believe. It's
you
like
keep
sort of
coming-
levels.
You keep coming back until your last one is supposed to be the best one, and
Ah.
and then you just don't come back anymore because you've achieved, like you said, enlightenment or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there was I can't remember the magician's name. He was a hypnotist. Paul, no. He did a lot of regression stuff on people, and he would regress people back. But some people would have 3 or 4 different lives going back. So he would go back 200 years, and then they would be a pirate. And then 200 years before that, they were something else. And 200 years before that, they were something else. But these people kept having these lives in this regression thing. And I think I told you about the time I went to see him, didn't I?
Yeah. You've told me, but I don't know if you've told Matt.
About the samurai?
Oh no, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I've sort of... I'll tell you all about that. I'm not going to do it on air, but I've got the transcript from it that he gave me. It's quite interesting, and it explains a lot in my life. It really does. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe I was...
Because I remember when I was younger, I used to have this reoccurring dream where I was in this room that was really dark and dingy, and it was full of bunk beds. And then we'd all be laughing and joking, and then all of a sudden this woman would come in who was dressed in like an old-fashioned maid's outfit, and she'd have this cane, and she'd whip this cane against the door, and we'd all shoot back and lie down and pretend we were asleep. And then she'll drag this boy out, and then she'd beat him on the floor. And I had this dream like multiple times.
Really?
Yeah, and now when I look back, it seemed like it was a sort of workhouse setting.
Right.
Like what I would only imagine, or maybe like an orphanage or like in a workhouse or something like that. Because we were in like, don't know if you've ever seen like Oliver Twist, like that sort of attire,
Yes.
like a cap and trousers, and
That's
I
quite
kept
interesting.
and I kept having that dream, and maybe that was a past life memory. Who knows? But my cousin said something really strange when she was about 2. My aunt was changing her nappy, and she said, "I used to look after you when I was a big girl."
What?
Yeah.
What?
And that's it. And my aunt was so scared. She didn't really ask much more, but that's always just a classic story in our family. And she looks a spitting image of my grandma.
The sort of reoccurring dream thing, I had one of those for about 4 years. And it was horrible. I would become it. Believe it or not, I knew the streets, the everything. I could, give you every detail of it because it was happening about once a week, this dream. And basically, I was coming out of Finsbury Park tube station, and I would walk up the road, and this guy in like a hoodie with a mask on would jump out from the from behind a bush at a door, and pull a gun on me and tell me to, give him my bag, and my money. And I sort of said no, and then he shoots me 4 times, and I feel the bullets going into my body and exiting out the other side, falling down to the ground, but I didn't fall over and lay flat. I fell over and sat up, and then just died. And I had that for 4 years, and the weird thing was that at the time I was actually living in Finsbury Park, and I used to come out of that tube station and walk past that same house and same bush every single
So
night.
it's giving you a lot of anxiety.
Oh my gosh, because you were sort of just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, it was sort of like weird.
Could have been a premonition.
Yeah, it didn't scare me, but it was just sort of like, this is really bizarre. Because every time I walked past it, every day after that, I thought, is there somebody hiding behind there? It was a bit weird. And then they just stopped. So
Maybe you finally fought back in a dream, and then stopped the cycle.
No, but there was I was reading something, not this program, but I was reading something about a guy who was having the same dream, but every time he had it, he advanced it a bit.
Cool.
Until he solved the problem.
you've just reminded me, that's what I had when I was younger, a dream like that. I had a recurring dream. Now, it's a bit more odd. Well, I had two. One of them, which was sort of a nightmarish one, right? Where, so I'll do the nightmarish one, and then the one which I sort of advanced. But the nightmarish one was where I would be in this sort of like, or you know, what people would describe as sort of a hell, where there's fire and whatever. And it's when I was really younger, and all of us kids would be walking up these stairs, and when we got to the top, we were told to jump into this volcano, and I'd just wake up. And I'd have that most nights. Yeah, like I'd be there, I'd be standing there, and there'd be like this guy in sort of this cloak at the top, and he'd just, you know, like force us to jump into this volcano at the top.
That's bizarre.
And I'd always have that. But then the one which that one night that just stopped, but one that I had for a long time that went away after I solved this was a dream about the three bears. So you know the story about the three bears, Goldilocks, whatever. Those bears. So I would be in the dining room in a house connects to the living room, and there's like, we have one of these, not really a Japanese style door, but you know how the Japanese has these sort of like sliding doors?
Yeah.
We have one similar to that, but instead of it slides, it's like a triangle shape, so you need to push it out to open it and then pull it in, kind of thing, like that. And it's see-through, so we can see through it into the living room. And I would be coming from upstairs into the living room, but when I get to the door, there'd be this force pulling me back into these bears. And I'd look behind it, I'd be yelling and like going, help, but no one would be able to hear me. And I'd have this dream all the time. It went on for a few years. And then at one point, in my dream, I just called out to, I think it was my granddad, who was obviously dead around this time. And the bears just stopped. And was like, what do you want? And then the bear said, oh, we just want to be friends with you. And then the door sort of opened up to the living room, and my parents came out, and we had a cup of tea with the bears.
That's very strange.
And I only resolved that until, you know, I finally got the courage to say, you know, what do you want? And then I never had that dream ever again after that.
That's bizarre. I've got a book here called Dreams and Their Meanings. And it's like common ones that apparently lots of people have. It's like women dream a lot about losing their handbags or their purse.
When I'm stressed, I dream my nails snap off.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, I've got another call coming through, guys. So sorry. I'll have to love you and leave you because I've got a meeting.
Okay. All right, so we'll
got carried
this
away
a day.
there.
Listen, something we can talk about forever, but I think we'll come up with something for the next show. I think we need to do this again because this is working really well.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know how I leave, but I'm going to have to leave because it's cool.
All right. So.
All right, great show. I'll speak to you next week.
Yep, brilliant.
See you,
It's gone now.
Thanks for joining us, Scarlett. Matt?
No worries, and come up with a theme for next week.
Yeah, I will.
No worries.
Yeah, we will.
All right, bye for now.
All right, take care.
Tara,
That was
Scarlett.
quick.
Yeah,
Wow.
she's gone.
Next week, I don't know what we're going to do.
I don't know.
Maybe we need to just communicate via email, come up with a show
Yeah,
idea,
definitely.
and then sort of take a vote. If we all come up with something individual and then see which one we all fancy doing. But yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed today. It's been very
it's
good.
fun, yeah.
It's been a while since we did one for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I'm
when
glad,
was it?
you know.
December last time?
Yeah, December.
Sometime in the end of
That's
December.
good.
So it's been a month.
I'm glad we're back doing this.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, this particular platform works extremely well. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'll put it all together. I'll send you the link. You can listen to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
That's
it's not
good.
going to go up on the radio show at the moment because there's problems there. IT are working on the system, so it's not quite up and ready yet. But hello, one's going off now. Yeah, so Matt, thank you very, very much for joining
You're welcome,
us.
Dan.
Really
Glad I
appreciate it.
be here
And
to
thank
do
you,
it.
Scarlett, even though you're not here, for joining us today. It's been brilliant. So, this is me, Dr. Den, from Down the Rabbit Hole, saying take care, be safe, wear a mask, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Tara.
Contact us now on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just search for Dr. Den or email us at drdenblack@gmail.com. You can listen to these podcasts on Podbean, Mixcloud and YouTube. Just search Dr. Den Does and Black Fox Radio.